we started working together 11 years ago. David Gade, who is co-owner of Deviation Distilling, distiller at Deviation Distilling in Denver, Colorado. David, thanks for being on the show.
Man, Jensen, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. It's awesome to catch up, and it's going to be a fun half hour.
Yes. Yeah, 11 years ago, we were part of the opening crew of Tag Restaurant, iconic in the Denver scene for sure. We were just joking about how unbelievably talented that restaurant was, and so many people have gone on to do amazing things since then. And so excited to have this face-to-face time with you. And so I'm going to taste some gin today. We're going to taste some gin today. I'm excited about that. We're also going to taste a little coffee whiskey, and we'll get into that a little bit. The real reason that you're on the show is because of these right here, people. These, get closer, hand sanitizers. So you and so many other distillers across the country pivoted. That word has become so synonymous with everything we're trying to do right now. Pivoted to producing hand sanitizer. And I want to talk about that. So I'm going to have you walk us through kind of why that was important to you, what the hell it took to accomplish that, and dig into that a little bit, because I think it's really important for people to understand how quickly you all mobilized and got this out to people, because it was such a necessity and a concern. And then I'm very interested to hear why, despite being able to sell it probably for an arm and a leg, because the supply and demand, it was high demand, you also donated a significant amount of it. So let's you're a distiller. Let's talk about hand sanitizer, because that makes total sense.
Yeah, never in a million years did I think I'd be in the hand sanitizer business, but here we are. It's just kind of one of those things that it ends up that distillers are in a very, very unique position to provide something that's desperately needed in the country and the world, really. The key ingredient in hand sanitizer, the antiseptic quality, comes from something we work with every single day, and that's ethanol. So we've got it. We might as well, while all these bars and restaurants are unable to serve alcohol, why not turn it into something that can really help people out? So that's kind of how it started. And honestly, in the early days, we kind of had this idea, and we weren't the first to have the idea by any stretch, but we had the idea that we could do something significant in the community and help people out. And at that point, there were no real rules or real regulations as far as how it was done. I reached out to this distillery in Oregon, and they said, yeah, mix this with this and this and this, and it's good. Okay, so we did some experiments there, and then day by day, we started getting more guidance from the World Health Organization via the Colorado Distillers Guild. Kind of funneled all that information to the Colorado distillers, and it was changing daily. So we had to try and keep up with that, and it seemed like every day there was another ingredient we needed to source. First, it was we were trying to thicken it to make it a gel, and then they said, don't make it a gel, it has to be a liquid, but you need to denature the alcohol. There's just all these steps. So we finally got it all figured out. We finally got everybody dialed in. So the small bottle that you showed was from an earlier batch.
Adorable little bottle.
These are the small bottles now with the World Health Organization and formula for the hand sanitizer and the FDA approved labeling. So a little more buttoned up, and there you go.
Great. It's nice, man. That's right. I'll take this with me to H Mart for sure.
Right? I keep one in my car at all times. It's just and I don't know if that'll ever stop. That might be one of this country's new normals moving forward. Just everybody has a bottle of hand sanitizer at the ready at all times. So hopefully we'll be able to keep up with demand and get people what they need.
All the germaphobes out there that have been spraying off doorknobs for years and years and years, like, I told you. Now all of a sudden they're not so crazy, it seems. And so clearly, I like that you articulated how there's just a bunch of stuff you as a professional distiller had no idea about, didn't understand the process, just figured it out. And you could have said, look, it's not for me. I don't want to have to do this much work. I'm supposed to be making gin over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you were committed and you figured out a way. And even just the products, the new one smells a little bit better. This one, the first time I opened it, I like poured it out and it like ran all over the place and I got like all over my pants and stuff. It's just like this clumsy thing that we're trying to navigate through at all levels. I appreciate, that it was a struggle. It wasn't like this simple thing where like, yep, we're going to do this and we're going to make buku bucks off of it because people are hurting right now. And so talk about that part of it. You donated tons and tons and tons of these bottles. I looked around everywhere and I saw, all these different family meal and feeding clinicians and all these different pop-ups that have come about during this time.
Hundreds of bottles to Denver Police Department, to the Adams County Sheriff's Department, Westminster Police, numerous nursing homes and fire departments as well. And that put a little bit of a great feeling in my heart in a really tough time in this world. So happy to do that. We continue to do that, as well as selling it through our web store. We just sold out of our 4th batch today. So it's something that continues to be in high demand, and the ingredients to get it are getting more and more impossible every day, but we're spending hours and hours sourcing, and so we can keep this thing going because it's really a great thing to do.
Yeah, and just thinking about the supply chain side of it all of a sudden struck me, because your job is to source amazing herbs and spices and coffees and grains to be able to make these gins. All of a sudden you're sourcing all these different products that you had no intention of it. Yet again, it's just why you're here is to create community through the beverages that you do, and now the community needs you in a different way. And the fact that you can produce ethanol and are built to produce ethanol, it's amazing. I am super stoked. Tip of the cap to you for that, for sure. So now let's talk about your business, Deviation, in this time, right? And you chuckle because it's like, what the hell is my business now? Like, do I still make gin? I hope I still make gin. Like, people buy my gin, for the love of God. I know you really need the sanitizer. And how then now are you thinking about that in a time that's strangely polarizing in this way that we're drinking more than ever right now? And so it's like, is it a boom time for anybody in the spirits brands? Yet you are so about curating small experiences, thoughtful experiences, curating these amazing ingredients that go into your products. And like, I just want people to see this while I'm talking about this. Your bottles are so stunningly beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really great. Talk about just holistically how you're thinking about being a distillery, a spirits company, in this moment.
In this moment, we're in a good position where we can pivot, to use your word, back and forth between our spirits, particularly gin, and the hand sanitizer. The whiskey side of things is a bit different. It's a bit harder to pivot back and forth there, but we've positioned ourselves to follow where the demand is. And right now that's hand sanitizer, but the very same ethanol is going to be used for producing gins when that time is right. We haven't stopped production of our gins. People continue to buy our gins. It's not the same. It's not the same clip, maybe, just with restaurants and bars being closed. We've lost that platform for the time being, but we're staying strong. We're continuing to put out content. My business partner Cindy is working on a kind of a web series on cocktails to do at home with our products during quarantine. Stuff that's not pretentious or over the top. It's just simple, easy, delicious, and we're trying to say, let's make a quality cocktail. Let's not all get hammered all day every day, but when we do drink, let's drink the good stuff.
I could not agree more. When's that coming out? I'm putting pressure on you now because now I feel like I need this because I'm staring down all this gin and coffee whiskey. I need to figure out some ways so I'm not just sitting there sipping on gin all day, every day. When is that series coming out?
So there's several of them that are finished and being edited as we speak. I would expect to start see them rolling out next week. There's one already that we put out just kind of randomly, but it's going to be more of a series moving forward.
Oh, I'm excited about that. All right, we'll make sure whenever that series is up, get back into the comments, David, of this episode and post that just for me personally. But some other people are going to need that as well. And so let's go even further back. You started a distillery, right? You went from being a chef, Chicago area, acclaimed restaurants, like you got the skills for sure. Then when we opened Tag, you were on the service side, focused on that. Now you're in distilling. So you've worked your way through a lot of different arenas within food and beverage. You started a distillery. You wanted to do the high level of quality, integrity of product, thoughtful, use your skills, your technical skills at that level. And then, the artistry is super cool. So you talk about what it means to kind of start a small distillery in Colorado, or for you, like why that was important.
Well, for me, like you said, coming from a chef background, that influences not just the distillery, but everything I do in life. And I'm sure you relate to that. But I just realized that I wanted a different avenue within hospitality besides doing restaurant work. And right at the same time, like you said, I was on the service side in Tag and really exposed to some super talented mixologists and great quality beer, wine, and spirits, and really got into that. And then, started experimenting with on my own, home brewing, and never distilling in the backyard. Nothing like that, of course. But it turned out that some of these experiments were not only super enjoyable, they were really delicious. And then as it happens in this world, got together with my business partner, Bob Wiley, who's a childhood friend of mine. We grew up together from a very young age, kind of went our separate ways and through college. And then he moved to Colorado and we reconnected, and we had a little too much whiskey one night, decided to do this. So,
how it always starts, huh?
Right.
Why was gin like? So here's what I want to say about it, and I'll let you talk about it. But I was very struck from my side of the table that each of your gins has a different grain bill. You never hear about that, right? That's something you hear about in a whiskey versus a Tennessee versus a bourbon. You hear that a lot. It's mostly all about the botanicals, and so you wanted to layer on different botanicals and spices, but also you wanted to have a different grain bill. So like, talk about that. And then before you actually talk about that, tell me, because I need to start sipping on this.
All right.
Citrus rosé.
Yeah. So citrus rosé.
Love it.
It's our lightest and brightest gin. Citrus forward for sure. The botanicals in this, and first of all, you'll see gins out on the market that they tout having 45 botanicals or something along those lines, and you don't necessarily taste any one of them individually. So our gins are a maximum of 7 botanicals. Citrus rosé is hand-zested lemon, tangerine, and grapefruit, along with a little bit of grains of paradise, juniper, obviously, because it's gin. Yep. There's lavender, and then all of the gins, and this definitely goes back to my chef background, all of them have a fresh herb component. This one has tarragon. So, but as you're kind of sipping that, I'd love to talk a little bit about the grain bills and that connection. And so what we do, what the main deviation in Deviation Distilling is our approach to producing spirits. And we do that in pairs. And to that end, we work with 3 main grain bills. And we use those to to distill both gin and whiskey. All of the whiskeys are still aging. Please be patient with us. But each whiskey has a gin sister spirit. So the one you're tasting, Citrus Rosé, is based on our barley recipe. So we have single malt whiskey aging, and Citrus Rosé is single malt gin. The reason for that, and it's another chefy thing, it's another big flavor thing. Most gin start as a neutral spirit.
Right.
Vodka, essentially, add botanicals, distill again, and you have gin. And in that style of gin, the botanicals are all you're tasting. Well, we source our grains from Colorado. We're proud of that. We think they taste great. We want you to taste a little bit of that. So we distill in such a way that some of the grain character remains in the gin, and then we tailor the botanicals to complement that flavor.
Yeah, that was very clear right away, just on the nose. The grains cut through, and there's a little bit of like supple richness to it that you don't see in a lot of gins. Usually gins are very thin in their nature, right? And it always feels like the alcohol and the base spirit, it can be somewhat extracted and fractured from that botanical. So you kind of get punched in the face with one and then the other, versus this definitely felt that nuance. And so that's where, I mean, the chefiness really, really comes in. When you're like really thinking about layering and balancing those flavors and stuff, that approach I think is really great. So having those grains be a backbone to that, I get it 100%. That makes your gin more expensive to produce. And getting that story across can be a little bit of a challenge. How have you been able to do that from a storytelling side? Because you have to educate the market a little bit to get them to care enough about that. Because is it a distinction without a difference, you know?
You do have to educate a little bit, and that's okay. We're not afraid of hard work.
Clearly.
For us, it's just a point of differentiation on a very crowded shelf space. Why pick up Deviation Distilling? Well, I challenge you to find another gin company making 3 different gins with 3 different grain bills, all with vastly different botanical profiles. So that is our proposition. That is our edge. And so far it's been very well received.
I like it. I'm one in, and I didn't taste any of these beforehand. I actually wanted to wait till this, so I had like a true reaction. And David knows me. If I did not like it, I have no filter. So I would tell you. All right, Mountain Herb. Now this one, I knew looking at the whole lineup was going to be a big challenge for me, because a lot of times these kind of like alpine type blends, these ones that are off a little bit more medicinal to me, are where I kind of deviate from my love of gin for sure. The citrus, this speaks to me. Citrus and bright herbs and floral notes, I really like. When it gets a little bit like, chewing on juniper and pine cones and stuff. Yeah, but see, I can already, and what's interesting is I smell the grain through this one even way more than I do with the other one. This has a ton of grain character.
So, well, back to the citrusy thing, Jensen. We've intended to create a gin that we have 3 of them. We are pretty confident that there's going to be one of them that everybody likes, and that's been our experience through the tasting room. Oftentimes, people like all of them and take them all home, and that's great. But at least there's a gin for every taste. Mountain Herb specifically is a real labor of love. It's based on our 4-grain mash bill, same as our 4-grain bourbon. Those 4 grains are corn, rye, malted barley, and millet, which is kind of the oddball. But in addition to that, so when that comes off the still, it's very earthy. So we took this in that earthy, piney direction as far as the botanicals. It's also an ode to Colorado. It's inspired by hikes here. We forage many of the botanicals for this gin ourselves. So local juniper, local mountain sage, a ton of local spruce tips, hours and hours and hours of picking spruce tips, which is kind of a nice day for a distiller to get out of the distillery and pick spruce tips. But in addition to those local botanicals, there's also culinary sage, fresh rosemary, hand-zested lemon, and coriander.
a ton of grain. What I really appreciate about this one, and you almost got me to say I really like this heavy, like again, Alpine kind of thing going because it brings you right down to like the base notes of your palate. It goes earthy really quickly because this style can make you feel like you just like somebody just blew menthol cigarette in your face. Like,
Yeah.
right? That's what I get a lot from this. And so this is not what I get from this, but this style of gin, a lot of times it feels like there's this menthol thing that's so medicinal to me that feels so fake. And this definitely goes right to like it goes to my jowls before it goes up into my sinuses. And we're nerding out right now, but if you know what I'm talking about, and you know what I'm talking about, Dave, for sure. So I really, really like that. The grains now are striking me as so much more than just being clever. They clearly bring an immense depth to this. Who are you getting your grains from?
Grains are all Colorado. Whiskey Sisters supply all of our raw grains. Those would be corn, millet, and rye. All the malted grains, or the bulk of the malted grains come from proximity malt, with a little bit coming from root shoot as well.
I know the guys from Root Shoot well, for sure.
Cool guy.
Homebrewers. Mike Myers is there as a prolific homebrewer for sure. Shout out to Mike. Now I'm going to have to share this with him and say, good job on making sure you get some of your grains in the gin. All right, so now I get it. Dave, I get it. I get it. At a high level intellectually, I understood it. Understand that like a lot of times the best whiskeys are also ones that don't just do really cheap two-row and then count on the barrel to be able to fix all of its inadequacies, right? That you create a really good base spirit and then you add depth with the barrel. So I was already with it, but now tasting it, it definitely brings a lot to it because you can get so focused on the botanicals that sometimes you forget about that base spirit. So I'm with you. I had no doubt, Dave, that you were going to be on something.
And this might be your jam here, Jensen.
I felt like it was. I like the color scheme. Thai basil and peppercorns. I mean, you had me at Thai basil for sure.
So this one is based on our rye recipe, and any rye drinkers out there, rye whiskey drinkers, you know, the descriptors of that are it's a spicy whiskey, a lot of baking spice, a lot of cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, that kind of thing. So we wanted to enhance those flavors without being obvious and putting more cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice in there. Instead, we took it in a very global, exotic direction. So this one, in addition to juniper and hand-zested lemon, we have a ton of Thai basil. There's fresh ginger, cardamom, a little bit of star anise, and Szechuan peppercorns.
Dave, this is why we're friends. This smells like what my pho smells like.
Yeah.
I basically take all of the basil for pho, all of it. Betsy's like, you don't get any. I'm taking all of the Thai basil and putting it into the pho because I love it to be so intensely aromatic with that Thai basil. The Szechuan peppercorn I appreciate. You just get that twinge of numb on the tongue. It doesn't keep you from being able to actually experience the rest of it. Yes, this is going to be the new house gin, Dave. You did it.
I like it. I like it. Actually, you next time we distill, well, that's another thing with our gins that not everybody does, and it's again a chefy aspect of it. Is most gins would be all the botanicals kind of go together. They're macerated. It all goes in the still. You distill. Out comes gin. For our gins, we distill each botanical individually, and then we blend post distillation. And what that allows us to do is there's different methods of infusing botanical flavor into gins, and we're able to concentrate on the method that works best to showcase that particular botanical. where if you're doing all of them at the same time, you're stuck using the best overall method.
So is that mostly time and temperature?
Time, temperature, but also to get botanical flavor in, you can macerate the botanical, where you put it into the base spirit, let it steep, remove it, and then distill the liquid. Yep. Or you can, second method would be maceration with cooking, where you macerate the botanical, you put that with the base spirit into the still, and it all distills together. So that method, I like to use the analogy of apple versus baked apple. You know, they're same thing, very different flavors. So you get some of those bright notes from the maceration, and then cooking gives you those kind of deeper explorations of that botanical. And then the third way is to use a gin basket, where you force the alcohol vapor to rise up through the botanicals in a gin basket. That's vapor infusion. It's a fairly light way to get that botanical, but it gets some super cool nuances, and it's not for every botanical for us through our experimentation. Some things, it just doesn't benefit us to use that, and some things we're really heavy on that vapor infusion. So, and then
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, because even just the way that you layer it in. I mean, I think about in cooking, if you add salt at one moment and not in multiple moments, you're missing out on the nuance and the layers that you can create. And so those are your salt, right? They're bringing the depth to that.
Yep.
And I think it's important. And so, especially when you're working with so many they're agricultural products, right? They're natural products. At different times of the season, they're going to have different characteristics. And so to be able to understand how to maximize their potential and layer them in, I love it. I'm in. All right. I want to spend a lot of time on the gins, but I want to at least taste one of these. And you had 3 of these, and I was like, wait, what is this showing up? And we have Barista, which is coffee, whiskey, single origin. I love this. I was like, Ethiopian, Guatemalan, Brazilian. Tell me about this product here.
Yeah, so this is our second product line. Barista Spirits is our lineup of coffee whiskeys. Deviation Distilling is located in the Yard on Santa Fe, First Avenue between Santa Fe and Calumet. And one of our neighbors is Copper Door Coffee Roasters, an awesome coffee roaster. It's a woman-owned business. She does everything she can to source her beans from female purveyors of coffee, female producers of coffee. So I think that's really cool too. And she does a great job. Hannah's awesome down there. So we've worked with her to select coffees that complement the 3 whiskeys. Which one you got in your hand there?
Guatemalan.
Yes. So this is Americano. The labels are down the side, or the name, the variety, I guess. Americano, as you would expect, is unadulterated, right? It's just coffee and great bourbon.
Wow.
So simply bourbon, Guatemalan coffee. We grind it in-house 2 to 3 minutes before it goes into the whiskey to infuse. There's a lot of flavored whiskeys out there that maybe are some shortcuts are taken. We take no shortcuts with.
They're shit. Most of them are shit, Dave. It's fine. I know you can't say that. I can. Most of them are hot garbage, and I'll say that for 2 reasons. One, it's not good coffee. It's not good coffee or whiskey a lot of the times, and they're counting on that infusion to mask the inadequacies of each. And the other is, I don't like coffee. So the fact that I think that this is pretty damn tasty is an ode to what you guys are doing. I'm very also interested in how you guys are handling the coffee, because what I've recognized in doing a lot of cuppings is a lot of times, to me, the temperature and time that you allow the coffee to steep matters more to me than necessarily it being from Guatemala, Ethiopia, or Brazil. So you guys really had to kind of understand time and temperature.
Yeah,
like
it's a matter of doing small batches in mason jars and working with length of the extraction process, the quantity of coffee, the proof at which we put the coffee into the whiskey to get the infusion. All of those things matter in getting a balanced flavor profile that we're after. So a lot of small scale before scaling it up and doing big batches and getting it into the bottle here.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up, but I want you to at least give people the quick soundbite because Betsy is the most excited to try these. She doesn't drink a lot of whiskey, but she saw coffee and she was. So you have Ethiopian, which is Aztec, and then you have Brazilian, which is Mocha. Tell us a little bit about those two products as we wrap up.
Yeah, so Mocha is a millet whiskey that we infuse with the Brazilian coffee beans as well as chocolate in the form of cacao shells that we source from Cultura, another local business that we like to work with. So that one, Mocha, you would expect Mocha to be a little bit sweet in a coffee shop. So this one is lightly sweetened, where the Americano is, as we say, unadulterated. And then Aztec is rye whiskey that we infuse with the Ethiopian, maybe my favorite of the coffee varietals. It's so fruity and blueberries and crazy.
All right, I got to try that one too. You sold me.
So this one then is infused with the coffee as well as cinnamon sticks and whole Madagascar vanilla beans, again lightly sweetened. And Jensen, that's a labor of love. Sitting down for about 5 hours splitting vanilla beans.
But you know what? It's funny. Like right now, wouldn't you just love to be doing that?
I would.
It feels like therapy. I've been like, somebody give me a couple cases of fava beans. I will shuck the shit out of those fava beans, and I will love every moment of it. Because right now, I just need some monotony that also is therapy at the same time. So, wow. The nose on that is crazy.
Yeah, thank you.
Damn, this is nice. And the fact that you're on the Brazilian working with Cultura, I love their space there. Super cool. Went to their opening party. Their chocolate is amazing. Their hot chocolate, even more amazing. And then just their brand and how embedded in the culture they are, into the community they are. Really great. Oh, all right. So we always end with some playlist items, but I want you to tell me a couple of your favorite gin cocktails. Maybe the couple things that Cindy's working on. Is it Aviation? Like what are the couple things that you really like to maybe give me three, one for each of the three gins, a cocktail. Your choice.
So you mentioned the Aviation. I think that the Spice Trade makes a really captivating Aviation, really, really nice. I'm going to do two for Spice Trade, actually.
Good.
Just because I love Negronis, and sometimes gin can get a little washed out in a Negroni. There's some bold flavors going in there. The Spice Trade stands up. It's front and center in a Negroni. It's awesome.
Okay. Literally my two favorite gin cocktails you just mentioned, with the gin, that out of the three was my clear favorite. So again, this is why we're friends. We now have a tradition in our family where Christmas Eve is Negroni and Chalpino. We cook Chalpino and drink Negronis. So
I like it.
You're speaking my language. Spice Trade will be making a showing at Christmas this year, no doubt. So Aviation, when I want to pinky out, drink a gin cocktail, and Negroni when I want to just crush some super bitter gin cocktail. I love that. All right. The citrus rosé?
Citrus rosé, I'd go French 75. Light, the brightness of the champagne with the brightness of that gin, it really works well. That was our New Year's Eve, was crushing French 75s with citrus rosé. So it also citrus rosé happens to be one that it's so built for 2-ingredient cocktails, gin and soda, gin and tonic. It's just so complete because of all the bright citrus notes. So that's our easy mixer. And then Mountain Herb, if I were to make a traditional martini, that's the one I would reach for. But I like things like bee's knees. There's something about the honey in a bee's knees and the sage. That's a favorite culinary combination from way back, and it works really well with that gin in the tasting room when it opens. Love to make you a cocktail, which is a variation on the bee's knees. We call it the bee's nuts because we've taken the bee's knees and we've elevated it. And that one entails a little bit of fresh sage and orange marmalade to the traditional bee's knees ingredients, and it's fantastic.
Unbelievable. So glad to have had you on. And it's so funny that we should have been on this show because we're friends and clearly we have a lot of synergies when it comes to the way we eat and drink because the gins are amazing and they're local to the Denver market here. Yet it was actually this bottle. I have to have Dave on to talk about how important it is in this moment to have thoughtful and creative people at every level that give a shit enough to put in the effort to figure out how to make this stuff. Because damn it, aren't we all spraying our hands all the time right now? And so the fact that it's thoughtful, the fact that it's coming from the heart really, really means a lot. And I'm glad that bottle sparked this and I got to try a bunch of really good gin and some coffee whiskey. David Gade, thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jensen. It's great to be on. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I'm looking forward to seeing this video. Make sure you get back into this and tag the link to those so that everyone can find them, myself included, because I'm going to need to make some gin cocktails. Have a great day.
All right, you too. See ya.
Cheers. Yes. That was great. See, I love when people are doing creative and thoughtful things that allow me to taste gin and coffee whiskeys in the middle of the day because I am a fiend for flavor, just the taste and the aromas that kind of are filling my dome right now. I love it. I absolutely love it. If you ever go somewhere, if you know me, you go somewhere to eat with me or to drink with me, a craft brewery, a distillery, a restaurant, you know that I order everything on the menu and take one nibble and one sip of every single item because I just love to catalog people's expression and flavors and nuance. So the fact that I got to do that today and support a friend, a local business, a good cause, somebody who pivoted this crazy word to this tiny little bottle. I mean, and look at, this is what their brand is all about. Their storytelling, even in the bottle, they're really expressing what is in this bottle. And then the fact that they said, we have to make this, and this is even more important in this moment. It speaks to the depth of humanity that we see in hospitality. And I am so grateful to share those stories and so inspired by people willing to do anything that it takes to support their community. And again, the fact that they donated so much of it and aren't, making money, and they could, and they should make money on this stuff. The fact that it's so important to them. So appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. Great shows today. Zuri earlier, Dave. Now I'm very inspired for sure. And then tomorrow morning's show, Patrick Mulvaney is going to be on. He is part of Family Meal Sacramento, and they've been crushing it out there with getting people fed. And then Mario Nocifera, who is with Bird's Eye Hospitality here in Denver, Colorado, is going to talk a little bit about the thoughtfulness of what's happening right now in hospitality. And as a consultant really focused on human capital, he's going to talk a little bit also, I'm sure, about what happens next with humans in hospitality. Thanks as always. Have an amazing day, everybody. Cheers.